In the early 2000s, I became somewhat obsessed with the show on National Geographic megastructures. I was fascinated by the incredible feats of engineering that created the Palm Islands in Dubai, airports in the sea, and suspension bridges more than a kilometre long. I became especially fascinated by skyscrapers and large-scale urban development. One of the locations that most interested me was Shanghai, the commercial capital of China and the city that, more than any other, demonstrates the rapid growth and development in that country in the last 40 years. In 2007, I arrived from Hong Kong. My first experience was getting into the city on the hypermodern maglev train, a transit system that floats on a thin bed of air, held up and propelled by powerful electromagnets that throw passengers along at 400 kilometers an hour. I didn't go to the city centre at the time though. I had to negotiate the metro to the hub of Nanjinglu, the nearest station to my hotel. Getting a taxi was a bit of a nightmare, but thankfully a local saw my problem and held one for me. I showed him my guidebook map of where I needed to go, and then realised the driver barely had any idea where he was, let alone where I needed to be. Somehow I managed to direct him to the hotel, through streets I had never seen, in a city I had never been to before. Shanghai is one of the 4 province-level municipalities of China, along with Beijing, Tianjin and Chongqing. With a population of 25 million, it's the largest city in the country, as well as being the centre for finance and international trade. It straddles the Hangpu River, its lifeblood since it first rose to prominence as a trading port in 746 CE during the Tang dynasty. Today, it remains an important entrepôt for China, thanks to the development of the Yangshan container port. The city came to wider international prominence in the 19th century and was one of the most fashionable cities in the world in the 1920s and 30s. During this time, the heart of the city was the Bund, the iconic waterfront area that sat within the Shanghai International Settlement Zone. This is a protected historical area, one of the most famous tourism and architectural locations in China. Iconic buildings include the North China Daily News Building, the Chartered Bank Building, the former Palace Hotel, the Bank of Communications Building, the Customs House and the HSBC Building. Since the 1990s, the commercial centre has crossed to the opposite side of the river to the Pudong district, where some of China's most iconic modern buildings can be found. The centrepiece is the Oriental Pearl Tower. Reaching a height of 468 metres, its design was inspired by the poem Papa Xing by Bai Juyi, completed in 1994 and opened in 1995. The views across the river to the old city are pretty stunning, but when I was there was a distinct layer of smog lightly coating the tops of the distant towers. Next door is the Jing'an Tower, which at the time of my visit contained the world's highest hotel. The name means God and prosperity, and as 8 is a lucky number in China, there are 88 floors. Since then, the Shanghai World Financial Center has been completed, which gained its own iconic status thanks to the trapezoidal aperture at its highest floors. In subsequent years, it was joined by the Shanghai Tower, which topped out at 632 meters and, as of uploading, is the tallest building in China, providing even more spectacular views of the city from its observation deck at 552 meters. Numerous other modern skyscrapers dot the wide avenues of Pudong, attracting many international corporations as well as the fruits of Chinese entrepreneurialism. Modernity may dominate, but tradition has stubbornly held on tight. The Nanshe district is the true old part of the city, containing the old walled city and the river docks. This is home to the Yuan Gardens and, most famously, the 9-turn or zigzag bridge. This area has now become a local shopping district and, unfortunately, super crowded tourist trap. More tradition is found at the Jing'an Temple, a yellow-tiled Tangmi Buddhist temple that has existed on the site in various forms since 247 CE. It was destroyed during the Cultural Revolution, but rebuilt between 1983 and 2010, providing an oasis of contemplation and peace from the insanity of endless traffic and the noise of modern life. These little spots of the old ways remind people of what has been lost over the decades, but the locals have always desired their precious links to the past, even if they lacked continuity. There's also the French Concession, the French-controlled foreign concession that existed from 1849 to 1943. This district has stubbornly held on to its existence and, for me, was a much-needed escape from the rest of the city which, from my first arrival, was a stressful, imposing assault on my mind and patience. Government buildings may be standard communist-esque visual impositions on the citizens' collective psyche, but like the country itself, they are overshadowed by the glass and steel towers of the modern world. Like any major city, the centre lights up at night with the gaudy LED blinking of the arts of modern consumerism, both local and foreign. Nanjinglu is crowded with locals and foreigners alike, and the streets are safe for the most part. Sure, there are plenty of pickpockets around, but there's no sense of threat or menace. Everything about this city would suggest that I'd love this place. The modern architecture, the bustling streets, the food, the waterfront, the infrastructure, and the history all blend in this sprawling and densely populated urban space. Sadly, I didn't. The problem is, as much as this city was full of many of the elements of the modern world I am interested in, I really didn't like it. I should have, and part of me felt guilty and confused, but the reality is that, for the most part, I had an unpleasant time. From the moment I set out on my sightseeing, it was like I couldn't be alone. I don't mean crowds of people. There were two types of harassment I had to deal with. The first was men who saw me as a cash cow, trying to sell me Montblanc pens, Rolex watches, weird wheel attachments for kids' shoes, and, of course, women. The other type were women who were really keen to be my friend. I'm not talking about that sort of women. These women would usually out and about with their friends and would start walking with me, asking me how I was, where I was from, where I was going, etc. They were persistent in trying to get to know me and wouldn't take no for an answer, even if no wasn't the word I chose. The constant bothering from people really got to me. At one point I briefly stopped walking and was suddenly surrounded by people with all sorts of rubbish to sell me. I couldn't get any peace, and I even called my friend in Hong Kong and had a mini breakdown. That hadn't happened before, it hasn't happened since, and I've been to a few crazy places since then. I consider myself lucky that my short time in Shanghai is one of the worst travel experiences I've had. Not that there's anything wrong with Shanghai per se, but so far I've never had any major problems travelling, like serious medical problems or crime. That this is on the worst side of my travel life is a win for me. It's a shame. I hate not liking a place, and Shanghai on paper should have been right up at the top of my list. It just didn't click, but not in the way that Dubai didn't click. That place feels fake, but even the new Pudong district felt like more than just a business district. Maybe one day I'll return and find things have changed for the better. Hopefully, people will leave me alone.